Hey guys, this is Stephanie and I'm Stacks on Stacks on Stacks. Alright, so for the part I know you all have been waiting for, my 1-star and 2-star reads. My first 2-star read is the last book in a series of unfortunate events by Lemony Snicket. The end. It was horrible. It was a horrible way to end 13 books. But after 13 books, I expected some sort of payoff, and I actually kept reading them because I kept thinking, it'll get better. There will be a payoff. Something good will happen, or something will happen. And it was such a letdown, and it was so sad and pathetic, and I was like, really? I spent my time reading this book? Really? So I did not enjoy. I gave it a 2-star. It made me mad. I feel like the first few books I gave like a 3.5, 3.4, 3.2, 3.1, 2. Like it just plummeted, and then I finally just gave the end a 2 because I was just sick of it and I didn't enjoy it, and I will probably never read anything that man writes again. I did not like it. My next 2-star read is Shadow Me by Tahereh Mafi. This is such a beloved book. I just hated it. Yeah, it made me throw up. Apparently made my husband throw up too. There was really nothing I liked about this book except maybe the last 30 pages were okay. The writing, I think she's trying to be lyrical. I've heard a lot of people say her writing is super lyrical. It's like a song. It is like a song, irritatingly like a song. Like I felt like I was reading like an entire book of poetry. I'm not a poetry reader, or I don't really appreciate it either. It was like this lyrical, weird way of saying her metaphors were completely ridiculous.
Over the top.
Completely over the top. They were things like, I melted into a puddle of goo. He touched me and I shattered.
I was on fire.
He looked at me and I was on fire. Like, they were just, the metaphors were so outlandish. Like a lot of times a metaphor you could actually imagine it happening. Like, I was so embarrassed. I just wanted to hide behind a pile of books. Like, you could see something like that happening in the book. These were so outlandish and weird, and honestly they sounded like something a 14-year-old girl would say, like, oh my gosh, he looked at me and I was on fire. Yeah, but this is an adult, and I mean, I know that she's like, 17, so this is a YA book, but still, a YA book should not be written like a 14-year-old girl. It was completely crap. I did not like this book at all. I heard the rest of it gets better. I don't think that I'm willing to do that. And then it has these like crossed out pages, like all these are crossed out. She crosses things out, so you can kind of read what it was, what she was thinking, and she crosses it out, and no, that's not what I meant. And that was weird too. The weird kind of a love triangle was also weird. And then the fact that nothing happened for 80% of the book. Like nothing happened. She's in a jail and then she's out. Like that's it. And if it takes you 250 pages to tell me that, then you have wasted hours of my time. And then the last 30 pages, something actually happens. The last 30 pages, I'm like, okay, this was interesting. This should have been a short story. This should have been like a 50-page short, no. This should have been a 40-page short story, and then it could have been like an intro to the other 2 books, because maybe I would like those. I just don't know if I have the gumption to read them yet. There's part of me that wants to, and then there's this other part of me that's like, these books were crap. Like, it was not good. If the writing's gonna be like that, I don't wanna read it. If the character's gonna be like that, I don't wanna read it. If nothing's going to happen for 250 pages, I don't wanna read it. So, I don't know if I'll read on the series, but that is why this got a 2.0, because it was terrible, and I have no idea what the hype is about, because it was really bad writing. Unless I were a 14-year-old girl, then I think I would like it. And my only 1-star read is November 9 by Colleen Hoover. I've talked about this before. I did not like this book. This was not a good book. This book showed you what a very bad relationship is like, and then called it good. It created a negative atmosphere for all sorts of bad things in a relationship, and then it said, but this is good. So what Colleen Hoover is doing is she's telling teenagers that like abusive relationships with verbal abuse, physical abuse, and rape and things like that, it's okay, because that's love. That is not love. That is abuse, and that is not an okay relationship. The whole time in this book I kept thinking, people love her. It has to be better. Like, she's going to call the cops. She's going to turn them in. She's going to do something like that. And then she's going to become a stronger woman because she did blah. But no. At the end of her books, she ends up with the boy and it's all going to be okay. And I'm like, it's not all going to be okay. It's not all going to be okay. Like, he's a murderer. It's not okay. And things like that. So and I've been told like all her books are kind of the same. They have this little formula and then there's those, whoa, surprise, which it wasn't a surprise. I saw it coming. In addition to which, it was not okay. None of it was okay. The guy is a stalker. He's physically abusive. He's mentally abusive. He did rape her, even though I feel like they tried to change it. And I'm like, no, when you force yourself on somebody, that's what it is. So I just felt like all the components of this book were a no. It was not okay. It should not be okay for girls to read this because they're going to think that this is an okay version of a relationship. And that's where domestic abuse becomes okay. And women go back to this guy that hit them. It's okay. I'm done talking about this. I hated the book. It was terrible. I will never read anything by her. And I would advise that you don't read anything by her either because it is all crap. Crap. And more crap on top of the crap. It's crap. So onto a brighter thing. I want to end this on a happy note. I had 13 5-star reads. I'm only going to talk about a few of them because there are 13. But these are all books that I said were 5 stars that I absolutely loved, that I will definitely read again and I would recommend to another person. First one is going to be Wires and Nerves by Marissa Myers. Now this is a graphic novel that focuses in on Aiko, who is a character in the Lunar Chronicles book. And I loved this. Like, I loved the visual. Like, I kind of had the characters in my mind. Now I had an actual visual for the characters. I loved that. I loved the plot. I love the idea. It's kind of a filler in or a little short story. And then the second half, I think, comes out in January this month. So I'll hopefully get that as soon as possible as well. I got it from the library, which is why I don't have it here. But I did love this book. I also gave a 5-star read to My Lady Jane, which I just read in December. Laughed my butt off reading this book. It is so hilarious. It's like a twist on the history of Lady Jane Grey, who sat on the throne for like 2 days or something like that. So this is kind of a, what if it were a magical universe instead? And these whimsical things could happen and funny things. And I thought the humor was funny. It was a little over the top, like kind of corny dad jokes sometimes, but I really thought it was funny. I totally enjoyed it. I found myself literally laughing out loud as I was reading this book, so I really did like it. Another 5-star read was A Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. I love this book. Can't talk too much about it because it is the second book in a series, which is the Mistborn series. First book is Final Empire, which I reread this year, and I loved that. I loved this book. I think I loved it more than the first one. It was really good writing. It takes place in a magical universe where basically people have magical abilities by consuming metals. So I loved this one, gave it 5 stars, and I would say that the Mistborn series is a definite read. If you like fantasy, it is a must read. My next 5-star read would be 6 of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I loved this book. I was very hyped, so I was very nervous because I was like, what if it's not as good as everybody's saying it is? It was fantastic and it was wonderful and I loved this book. It is about 6 maybe unsavory characters in the Grisha universe who are put together to pull off a heist, and that's about all I'm going to tell you. But it is fun. The characters are wonderful. They're well developed. How she can develop 6 characters in not a super long book is pretty impressive. Their interactions together are good. She's a great writer. Like, I literally could not stop reading this book. It was wonderful. Another 5-star read I have was Dark Matter, and this is by Blake Crouch. This was a fantastic book. It was kind of a thriller mystery, which is way outside of what I normally read, but I wanted something to listen to, and I had a certain amount of time to listen to it, so I picked it, and I listened to it, and it was just great. It was an incredible book. I did not see it coming at all. Basically, this is about a guy who gets abducted, and then when he wakes up from that abduction, his life is no longer his life. His wife isn't his wife, his job isn't his job, his son isn't his son. So he's in the same place. He's still himself, but he is different. So it's a matter of him figuring that out. And it's actually pretty great. Like, I think it sounds weird, but it's not weird. You would absolutely love it. Read it. Another 5-star read is Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. Now, this is a book I think a lot of people read and were like, it's 5 stars, it's amazing. So I had pretty high expectations. and it did meet those expectations. It is a book about a boy whose mother is dying of cancer and how he's dealing with it as he imagines that the yew tree in the back is actually a friendly monster who is helping him kind of deal with all the emotions. I really liked it. My next 5-star read was And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. I read this in April or May, I can't remember now. And then I read it again in the summer because I really liked it. It was a fantastic book. I loved this book. And this is what made me realize that I just think I love Agatha Christie as a writer. She's amazing. She takes these original ideas and then people use them throughout the year. She wrote this book in like 1920 something. And then people are writing books in, 2016 that have this kind of outline makeup to it with a modern twist. But even in the 20s, like, it's fantastic. It's completely fantastic. Basically, in this book, there are a bunch of people who are on an island together, and it's not like a lost island. It's like, hey, I can see that end to that end, that kind of island. And they are all on this island together, and then somebody is killed. So somebody who's in this house on this island is killing people. It's one of you, like it's somebody in this room type of thing. And they don't know who, and they have to figure out who it is. And of course, people keep dying. So it's a pretty great book. Kind of messes with your mind a little bit, but not too much. And I loved it both times. Loved it, read it, must read the book. Okay, so my next 5-star read is another Agatha Christie. It is The Secret Adversary. Now this is the first in the Tommy and Tuppence series. It was also written in 1920. It is a beautiful book. It is a wonderful book, and I loved this book. It is another typical Agatha Christie where you have a mystery, and these two people, Tommy and Tuppence, are friends, and they're kind of thrown in together to figure out this mystery because, well, they're both looking to make a buck, honestly. They both want to make some money, and they're like, hey, we could do this thing and make some money. And then it turns into a very big thing, a much bigger thing than they thought it was, and they get all tangled up in it. But it has an element of sweetness to it that a lot of Agatha Christie's books don't have. A lot of them are very serious, and a lot of them are very, But this book, the characters just bring an innocence and a sweetness, and there are 5 books in the series. I will be reading them all. I've read the first 2. But I'll read the rest, I will. My next 5-star read is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. This was a debut novel, and it's hard to see because it's very white. But it was a great book. I love this book. It's definitely 5 stars. This was a book that it was about a girl who witnesses a girl who is black, who witnesses a friend of hers getting shot right in front of her in a car by a cop, and she's the only witness. And it's how she deals with that, how she grows through it, it's what she learns through it, and it is a very applicable story to today in America. So I think I gave it 5 stars because it is so now. It is so what's going on. It addresses issues in a way that I haven't seen, and it's very informative at the same time. It tells me things that I didn't know, and I really appreciate that. My next 5-star read is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna, and this one is a World War II historical fiction book that is about 2 sisters, and they both live in France. One wants to fight for the French resistance during World War II, and the other one wants to just stay in her little town and protect her daughter and not like make any waves and just put up with the Germans. They come in her house, just put up with it. They take this, just put up with it. It'll go away. It's all gonna be fine. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. And that's her attitude towards it. So it's 2 separate point of views, 2 sisters who think 2 very different ways. I loved this book. I love historical fiction, but I love this book. This is historical fiction done right. My next 5-star read is Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. This is a book that takes place in Canada, because the author's Canadian, and it basically is kind of a futuristic book. Not futuristic like you're thinking. Basically, a virus has come and it has wiped out like 90% of the population of Earth, and then the 10% have to pick it up and keep going. It is multi-perspective, and it jumps from like now to then. And it's really interesting because we have multiple characters, what they're doing now when the virus hits basically, and then way after. The then is probably what it focuses on a little bit more, and we are following a traveling group of actors and musicians as they travel to kind of, bring joy to the little settlements that they have. It's more of a primitive society, but still a established society. I enjoyed the characters in this book, all of them. I enjoyed the point of the book. And it just surprised me, and I didn't know what to expect because I didn't know a lot about it, and that is the best way to go into books. I also gave Darker Shade of Magic a 5-star rating. Most of us have heard about Darker Shade of Magic. Basically, we have multiple Londons that have magic. Some of them have magic. Our London obviously does not have magic. And we have our main character, Kel, who can travel from London to London as he pleases. And one day he does a favor for somebody and takes something from one London to another, which is against the rules. And it turns out to be a bad thing that starts spreading bad magic in the Londons. I'm not going to go much more into depth with that. You can read if you want to. It is a trilogy. It is pretty good. I only gave the first book 3 stars. I didn't like the other 2 as much as I liked the first one. Actually, I feel like the whole trilogy kind of let me down, which is too bad, but I think that's because it was so hyped. If it wasn't so hyped, I feel like I would have liked it more. My 13th 5-star read is The Name of the Wind by Patrick Ness. I loved this book. It is a very slow-moving book. It is a book that follows a guy named Kavoth as he's looking back on his life. So this particular book covers from he's a little kid to about 15 years old and how he goes from nothing to getting an education and becoming who he is. But it only, like I said, covers that first chunk. The second book I haven't bothered to read yet because the third book has not a release date. But I am hoping that it'll come out soon. And when I have a release date, I'll probably reread this, then read the second one, and hopefully get my hands on the third one. It doesn't sound appealing, but it is, and I don't want to tell you more than that because, yeah. So that was my good, bad, and overview. I hope it wasn't too long-winded for you guys. This is going to be a much longer video than I was thinking it was going to be, but that is what I have. Now, I will have a resolutions video coming up sometime soon. I don't know when, where I'm going to talk about more of what I want to do in 2018, but this is the overview of what I did in 2017. I hope you guys enjoyed spending your 2017 watching my videos and my opinions on books. I would love to hear the best book and the worst book that you read this year. Link it down below in the comments. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and please, please comment. I love your comments. Thank you guys so much for spending 2017 with me. I've loved it. I've loved every minute of it. This has been so much fun. You will find me here on Tuesdays and Fridays. I look forward to seeing you then. Goodbye.